How dopamine is quietly destroying your life. Have you ever had a night like this? You're lying in bed alone. Everything is silent. Your body is completely drained, your eyes are sore and heavy, but your mind is unusually alert. Your fingers are moving uncontrollably across your phone screen, scrolling again and again in a mindless, mechanical motion. Inside, you're overwhelmed by a deep sense of emptiness and anxiety about tomorrow. Yet at the same time, you're desperately, almost pathetically, hoping that the next short video will bring just a tiny bit of stimulation, even if it's only for a second. In that moment, have you ever suddenly stopped and asked yourself one simple question? What am I even doing? If you've ever found yourself in that scene, even just once, then this message is for you. I know that feeling. That sense of helplessness when you know it's poison, yet you can't stop yourself from drinking it, sip after sip. That loneliness when you try desperately to fill your life with noise and excitement, only to find your heart growing increasingly empty. That panic as you watch time slip away, feeling yourself becoming numb and sluggish, yet powerless to stop it. I want to tell you, this is not your fault. You're not lazy, not a failure, and definitely not lacking in willpower. You're just like me, like all of us. We've fallen into the biggest, most carefully engineered trap of our time. A trap that lures us in with the promise of pleasure, only to drain us of all our passion and vitality. Today, let's uncover the true culprit behind it all. Dopamine. Don't swipe away just yet. This isn't some dry scientific theory. In the next few moments, I'm going to peel back the layers, like an onion, and reveal 6 harsh but undeniably real truths to you, one by one. Most importantly, once you've seen it all clearly, I won't leave you alone in the aftermath. At the end of the video, I'll share a truly practical psychological rebuilding plan. It's not feel-good fluff or empty slogans, but a concrete set of strategies to help you hit the reset button in your brain, break free from a life controlled by desire, and rediscover a deep, lasting sense of happiness. The kind that fully immerses you, makes you lose track of time, and comes from deep within. Please, make sure you watch this film all the way through. It might just be the most important message you'll hear about your life this year. It's about how to rediscover the real you, the one you lost on countless late nights. Before we officially begin, we need to clear up a common misconception. Dopamine itself isn't the same as happiness. More accurately, it's a neurotransmitter of desire. It drives us to want, to pursue, not to feel satisfied. When you anticipate a reward, your dopamine levels surge, pushing you to take action. But in today's world, overflowing with instant gratification, this mechanism has turned into a carefully designed trap. When was the last time you felt a pure and peaceful kind of happiness? Not euphoria, but a calm, heartfelt joy. Maybe it was on a sunny afternoon when you finished a good book. Maybe it was after spending an hour cooking a meal for your family and seeing the satisfied smiles on their faces. Or maybe it was after a long run, feeling the refreshing mix of sweat and a gentle breeze. Do those moments feel increasingly distant? We're living in an era of dopamine overload. On short video apps, there's a new hit of stimulation every 15 seconds. In games, every level up and loot box is a carefully timed reward. On social media, every red notification of a like is designed to trigger our nerves. These meticulously designed products are essentially dopamine machines. They deliver dose after dose of neurological stimulants at the lowest cost and highest speed. The first, and most insidious, consequence of this is that our threshold for pleasure keeps getting pushed higher and higher. Imagine a scale in your brain that balances pleasure and pain. Dr. Anna Lemke of Stanford University School of Medicine explains in her book Dopamine Nation that pleasure and pain are processed in the same area of the brain, like two sides of a balance. When you experience intense, short-lived pleasure, the scale tips toward the pleasure side. But to restore equilibrium, the brain immediately triggers a compensatory response, pushing the scale back toward the pain side, sometimes even lower than before. That's why, after a night of partying or binge-watching shows until 3 or 4 in the morning, you wake up not with a sense of satisfaction, but with overwhelming emptiness, disappointment, and fatigue. Once that brief dopamine high wears off, it's followed by a deeper, longer-lasting crash. What's even more alarming is that the long-term, frequent bombardment of our brains with these cheap pleasures can lead to a phenomenon called neural adaptation or tolerance. Just like an alcoholic needs to drink more and more to feel even slightly buzzed, our brains begin to crave increasingly stronger and more frequent stimulation to experience the same level of pleasure. As a result, the activities that once brought us peace and joy, like taking a walk, reading, having a face-to-face conversation with a friend, or completing a challenging task, no longer release enough dopamine to satisfy our brains, which have been conditioned by constant, high-intensity stimulation. And so, we find ourselves in a disheartening situation. Pleasure is more accessible than ever, yet genuine happiness feels increasingly out of reach. You become numb to life, unable to find interest in anything. This condition is clinically known as anhedonia. You feel drained even when you haven't done anything, because your nervous system is worn out from constant overstimulation followed by inevitable crashes. You think you're enjoying life, but in reality, you're merely depleting your ability to experience true happiness. Now, let's talk about an issue that almost everyone struggles with: procrastination. Have you ever had this experience? You know a critical report is due tomorrow, yet you still can't stop yourself from launching a game. You know an important exam is just around the corner, but you end up scrolling through short videos for 2 straight hours. You keep scrolling, overwhelmed with anxiety and guilt, yet you just can't stop. Please understand, this really isn't entirely your fault. It's not because you're lazy or lack willpower. What's happening is a deeply unfair neurological battle, driven by dopamine. From a dopamine perspective, every task we engage in falls into one of 2 categories: high dopamine activities and low dopamine activities. Scrolling through your phone, playing games, and eating sweets are classic high dopamine activities. They offer instant feedback and gratification. In contrast, studying, working, exercising, and deep reading are low dopamine activities. Their rewards are delayed, and at first, they can even feel boring or uncomfortable. When you're faced with a difficult, complex, low dopamine task, such as writing a 5,000-word article, your brain anticipates hours of hard work and discomfort ahead. This anticipated pain triggers an instinctive urge to escape. At that moment, the phone in your pocket is like a bad friend always ready to step in, calling out to you, "Come to me." With just a swipe of your finger, you can feel instant pleasure and forget all your current troubles. So, you choose the latter. You use the instant gratification from scrolling on your phone to temporarily numb the anxiety of tackling a challenging task. But this is like drinking poison to quench your thirst. Every time you give in to this temptation, you're reinforcing a neural pathway. When I'm stressed, high dopamine activity is my escape. This creates a destructive, vicious cycle. Faced with a difficult task, you feel anxious. To avoid the anxiety, you turn to high dopamine entertainment. You experience a brief sense of pleasure, but waste time, and the task remains incomplete. As deadlines loom and tasks accumulate, your anxiety deepens, along with feelings of self-loathing. To escape these even more painful emotions, you seek out more high dopamine stimulation to numb yourself. You see, the essence of procrastination is trading greater future pain for a fleeting moment of present pleasure. What we're truly addicted to isn't the entertainment itself, but the way it helps us escape the helplessness of reality. And dopamine is the fuel and engine that drives this vicious cycle. It makes our brains increasingly short-sighted, focused only on the candy right in front of us while blind to the cliff looming in the distance. 3. The third downside of dopamine, likes, have replaced real human interaction, leaving us more isolated than ever. Humans are social creatures, and the need for connection is deeply rooted in our DNA. In the past, that connection was formed through genuine interactions, eye contact, shared experiences, and moments of vulnerability. But now, all of that is being replaced by dopamine-driven, performative socializing. At its core, social media is a massive, never-ending Skinner box. Every time you post a carefully edited photo or a meticulously crafted update, you're anxiously awaiting that red notification. Every like, comment, and share triggers a small dopamine hit in your brain. It makes you feel seen, validated, and appreciated. The insidiousness of this mechanism lies in how it reduces our complex, multidimensional social relationships into quantifiable data points. The depth of a friendship seems to be measured by how often we like each other's posts. The value of life appears to be defined by the number of followers one has. As a result, we begin to unconsciously live for likes. We visit trendy restaurants not because the food is particularly delicious, but to take photos that will rack up likes. We share our lives not out of genuine self-expression, but through carefully staged performances designed to present a more perfect, more enviable version of ourselves. In the British sci-fi series Black Mirror, there's an episode called Nosedive that sharply satirizes such a world. Everyone's social status is determined by a constantly updated rating system. In pursuit of high scores, people wear fake smiles, offer insincere compliments, and meticulously maintain their crafted personas every day. To what extent has this seemingly absurd future already become our reality? When social interaction turns into a performance, genuine connection begins to wither. Deep relationships are built on authenticity and vulnerability. They require us to have the courage to reveal our imperfections, to share our struggles and confusion. But in a world obsessed with likes, vulnerability feels dangerous, because it's not aesthetic, and it might not deliver that dopamine hit. We may appear connected to hundreds or even thousands of people, yet we feel more alone than ever. Because those digital likes can never replace a real hug or a heartfelt conversation while lying side by side. We crave understanding, yet we fear being truly seen. This contradiction has turned us into isolated islands in the information age, surrounded by countless weak connections, yet unable to find a true harbor to anchor in. Studies have even shown that the withdrawal symptoms of social media addiction are physiologically similar to those of drug addiction, causing reactions such as increased heart rate and sweating. This clearly shows that our dependence on these virtual connections has sunk deep into our very core. 4. The fourth harm from dopamine, the murder of focus. Have you noticed that it's becoming harder and harder to finish reading an entire book, or even a long article? Your attention is easily scattered, constantly disrupted by notifications, pop-ups, and sudden intrusive thoughts. This is yet another heavy price we pay for our endless pursuit of dopamine. Our ability to focus is being systematically destroyed, and his book Deep Work, author Cal Newport presents a core idea. In today's knowledge economy, the ability to create value depends on two key skills: the ability to quickly master complex subjects and the ability to produce at a high level of quality. Both of these skills rely on the same condition: deep work. Deep work refers to prolonged periods of intense focus on cognitively demanding tasks in a distraction-free environment. It enables you to tap into your full cognitive potential, generate new value, and enhance your skills. Achieving this state requires the capacity to withstand distractions for extended periods. Yet our modern environment is, in many ways, the greatest enemy of deep work. Smartphones, social media, instant messaging apps, they chop our time into countless fragments. Every time the screen lights up, every buzz is a hit of dopamine, luring our brains away from the task at hand. Our brain is like a muscle. It takes shape based on how you train it. When you get used to rapidly switching between apps or checking your phone every few minutes, you're training your brain to develop an attention deficit. It starts craving constant, novel stimulation and becomes intolerant of even the briefest moments of boredom. So when you finally decide to focus and dive into something that requires deep thinking, your brain immediately pushes back. It feels restless and uneasy because it has become accustomed to frequent dopamine hits, while deep work, especially in its early stages, is marked by low dopamine levels. As a result, you instinctively seek out familiar behaviors that offer instant gratification, like picking up your phone and tapping on that well-known icon. The long-term consequences of this behavioral pattern are severe. It not only hinders our ability to work and study efficiently, but more importantly, it strips us of the capacity for deep thinking. Activities that truly shape our cognition and foster wisdom, such as thoroughly exploring a complex problem or building a rigorous logical framework, become increasingly out of reach. Our thinking is becoming increasingly shallow, fragmented, and passive. We are adept at absorbing information but struggle to develop our own insights. We think multitasking makes us more efficient, but in reality, we're just using a form of pseudo-busyness to cover up the decline in our cognitive abilities. In the end, we find ourselves lost in an ocean of information, unable to discover a single rock of thought we can truly call our own. 5. The fifth downside of dopamine: the more we chase goals, the less happiness we feel. From a young age, we are taught to set goals and work hard to achieve them. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. But when the pursuit of goals becomes driven by the logic of dopamine, it turns into a new source of suffering. What dopamine drives is the reward, not the enjoyment of the process itself. This gives rise to a very common mindset I call result addiction. We become fixated on the finish line, getting promoted, earning a raise, buying a house, hitting a certain follower count, because we imagine that once we get there, we'll experience a huge dopamine rush and finally achieve ultimate, everlasting happiness. Under the influence of this mindset, the journey toward our goals is no longer an adventure filled with exploration and growth, but a painful cost we feel we must endure as quickly as possible. We sacrifice sleep, health, and time with our families, convincing ourselves, once I succeed, everything will get better. However, the harshest truth is this: when you finally reach that long-cherished destination, the euphoria you envisioned doesn't arrive. Studies show that when we accomplish our goals, dopamine levels actually plummet. You might experience a brief surge of excitement, but it's quickly replaced by an overwhelming sense of loss and emptiness. You may find yourself asking, "Is this it? After everything I gave, was it really all for just this fleeting moment of joy?" This phenomenon is known in psychology as the arrival fallacy. We mistakenly believe that achieving a specific goal will bring us lasting happiness. But the reality is that dopamine-driven pleasure is, by nature, fleeting and unreliable. Even worse, the thrill of achieving a goal fades quickly. To relive that sense of anticipation, you immediately start chasing the next, bigger goal. Your life turns into an endless pursuit. You become like a dog chasing its own tail, always running, yet never truly satisfied. This obsession with results causes us to overlook the most valuable part of life, the process itself. We miss out on the joy of learning through struggle, the bond formed by working alongside others, and the genuine sense of accomplishment that comes with every small step forward. Our lives become a checklist of a few isolated, highlight moments, and long stretches of what we dismiss as meaningless waiting. Isn't this a tremendous tragedy? 6. The final harm from dopamine. Our last reserves of life energy are drained. All the psychological damage we've discussed eventually takes a toll on our physical bodies. The endless pursuit of dopamine is driving both our minds and bodies to the brink of collapse. The first sign is the breakdown of sleep. Have you ever experienced revenge bedtime procrastination? After a long and hectic day, you finally get some time to yourself at night. Even though you know you should go to bed, you can't resist picking up your phone, trying to reclaim the entertainment time you lost during the day. At its core, this behavior is another form of dopamine seeking. You're using the pleasure of late-night indulgence to make up for the stress and exhaustion of the day. But the cost is sacrificing your body's most essential repair time. Chronic sleep deprivation can directly weaken the immune system, disrupt hormonal balance, and even increase the risk of cardiovascular disease and mental health disorders. 2. Decline in attention and memory. Constant cycles of dopamine overload followed by crashes place tremendous stress on the nervous system. Just like land becomes barren from overuse, our brains can become exhausted after continuous overstimulation. You may find it increasingly difficult to focus, and your memory may noticeably decline, often forgetting things. This is not an exaggeration. Studies have shown that internet addiction can lead to shrinkage and structural damage in the brain's gray matter. Finally, there is the spread of anxiety and depression. When we place all our hopes for happiness on external and unstable sources of dopamine stimulation, our emotions become like a roller coaster, wildly unpredictable. The moment we're cut off from those sources, for example, when our phone dies or our gaming account gets banned, a crushing sense of emptiness and anxiety can instantly overwhelm us. To escape these negative feelings, we desperately seek the next hit of stimulation, falling into a vicious cycle. This pattern closely mirrors the neural mechanisms of addiction. Eventually, when the brain's reward system becomes completely imbalanced, we may spiral into the depths of depression, losing the ability to experience joy altogether. What we seek is happiness, but what we get is anxiety. We yearn for relaxation, but end up feeling exhausted. We think we're on a shortcut to paradise, only to discover that the path leads to a hell of physical and mental burnout. This is the inevitable destination of the endless pursuit of cheap dopamine. Alright, let's take a moment to recap. We've examined, from 6 brutal angles, how the pursuit of dopamine gradually destroys our lives. It numbs us with the illusion of pleasure, drains us through the engine of procrastination, isolates us with corrosive relationships, makes us shallow by killing our ability to focus, traps us in an addiction to outcomes that leaves us perpetually dissatisfied, and ultimately drives us to a state of complete physical and mental exhaustion. After hearing all of this, you might feel a bit weighed down, even hopeless. But please remember, the reason I'm sharing all of this with you today isn't to spread anxiety. It's to awaken the strength that lies deep within you. Recognizing that a problem exists is the first step toward solving it. Our goal today isn't to eliminate dopamine. Without it, we'd lose all motivation and desire. Our goal is to reclaim control, to break free from the grip of cheap dopamine, and to learn how to become the master of our own minds. So how do we do that? The answer lies in the discomfort. Embrace those low dopamine activities that demand effort and perseverance. Replace consumption with creation. Put down your phone and write something, draw a picture, learn to play an instrument, or cook a meal. The dopamine released through these activities is high quality. It comes with skill development and a true sense of accomplishment. Replace sitting still with movement. Go for a run, break a sweat, and push your physical limits. The endorphins and dopamine your body releases after exercise bring a deeper, longer-lasting sense of joy. Replace shallow interaction with deep connection. Put down your phone, meet up with a friend, and have an uninterrupted, meaningful conversation. Genuine empathy and understanding give us a kind of strength that virtual likes can never provide. Replace filling the void with embracing boredom. Set aside a period of time to do absolutely nothing. Just sit and allow your mind to quiet down from the constant bombardment of information. You'll be amazed to discover that creativity and deep thinking often arise from these seemingly boring moments. Remember, true freedom isn't about doing whatever you want whenever you want. It's about having the power to not do what you don't want to do. It's about having the ability to choose in the face of temptation. Finally, I'd like to end today's message with a famous quote from Austrian psychologist Viktor Frankl, a quote that has given strength to countless people in times of hardship. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space, we have the power to choose how we respond. And within that response lies our growth and our freedom. That space is the battlefield where we resist our instincts, conquer our impulses, and reshape who we are. That's it for today's video. I hope we can all stop being slaves to dopamine and start becoming the masters of our own lives. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next video.